Betting on sports can be hard, but hiring Morgan & Morgan is easy. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They have over 100 offices nationwide and more than 1,000 lawyers. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/bestbets or dial #law, #529 from your cell phone. That's forthepeople.com/bestbets. This is a paid advertisement.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss, Pauly Howard with you. We are live, as always, in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Loaded program today. Over the next 3 hours, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian with his advice for this week in the playoffs, and also player props for tonight and this weekend. That's 2 full segments. Steve Wiss on soccer bets, and Brad Powers will run the gamut with him. College football with the bowl game starting tonight, a bunch of them tomorrow, and of course over the weekend. Pauly, I'm looking at the screen right now. Chargers hosting the Broncos tonight in a very important clash in the AFC for playoff jockeying. And for both these teams, and the Chargers absolutely, I think, kind of have to have this game. So open 3. That didn't last for too long this week. Down to 2.5 with juice. And now they're 2.5, like minus 110 at a bunch of spots. Total is 41. I have to be honest. I know the Broncos have been the best team to date, ATS. I'm still trying to figure out kind of who these two teams are right now. You know what I'm saying?
I think the Chargers are good, but they're not healthy, and they don't have many playmakers. So without Dobbins, and you don't have, other than McConkey, who are you going to throw the ball to? And certainly the defense was exposed last week too. So going to your point, you're right. Denver wins, they're in. They lose, they're still 85% to make the playoffs. Chargers win, they go over the win total, and then they become 97% to make the playoffs.
Right.
With a loss, they're still 73% because they close with the Patriots and the Raiders. Should be 2 wins. But they got to get the defense fixed, and they got to get healthy. And it starts with the quarterback, because Herbert has that bad ankle. I love him under 11.5, 10.5 rushing yards. He didn't even try last week.
Not at all.
It also impacts the play calling, and Roman talked about it. Him being hurt, not being able to move, dictates and controls kind of the stuff I'm doing and what I'm able to call. So without a running game and without a mobile quarterback and a compromised quarterback, and I got receivers banged up, they really struggled offensively, couldn't stop anything. And now they've come limping in literally here, and it's a huge game, and I agree with the movement. On the other side, is it good Bo or bad Bo? 5 interceptions the last 2 weeks. It's if he doesn't turn it over, you'd think Denver's going to win a low-scoring game, but he's been bad in that regard the last 2 weeks.
Let me give you this. So if you like Herbert's rushing yards under, which I agree with, how about his completions? And when you go to vsin.com, click on tools and go down to the NFL prop analyzer, his prop tonight for completions is 21.5. Do you know that Justin Herbert is 13-1 to the under 21.5 completions on the year?
Oh, very good.
Now, he's landed on exactly 21 4 times, including 3 out of the last 4. But is it juiced up this high because of the fact that, isn't that kind of correlated? He did not have a single rush last week, like you just said.
Yep.
So he's not going to be running much. Without Dobbins, this team cannot really run the ball. And, oh, by the way, Denver's very good at slowing down other teams from that. And so it kind of figures that Herbert probably won't be rushing at all. The team, if they can't, maybe this is the first time. Well, you actually get 27 completions in one game this year. But that's amazing to me. I never would have guessed he was 13-1 to the under.
So who's he throwing to? Because you're probably going to put Surtain on McConkey. And then do you trust Johnson?
Oh, we missed one here.
And he's low. What do we miss? Your guy?
McConkey would be the guy you figure. He's been hot lately. His last 4 games, he's had, in order, 5, 9, 6, and 6 receptions. But again, you pull up the NFL prop analyzer. He's 12-1, under 6.5 on the year. It was 6.5 last night. Under was like minus 170. 6.5s are completely gone. It's now down to 5.5 everywhere. And he is 9-4 under 5.5 on the year. But Surtain's going to be on him, like you said, you would figure for most of the game. So does that just completely neutralize him? If so, is it another big Stone Smart game? He was awesome last week. I loved him. But the rub with that is, and there's no Will Dissly in this contest, the Broncos happen to be elite against guarding tight ends. I'm kind of at the nexus of the universe here.
That's right. Yeah, I think the total's too high as well.
Yes, so do I.
Could be an ugly game, much like the Atlanta game against the Raiders, and it could be all about field goals here. Although Denver's 11-3 to the over this year, first half, and 6-1 ATS on the road.
You want a little no touchdown action tonight, back-to-back Thursdays?
I don't hate it. 90-1.
No
Good
touchdown.
point.
No touchdown first half would be
Yeah.
something I would look at. Now, here's what I was referring to at the open of the show and how I can't figure these teams out. Now, and maybe this speaks to more of how they might get blasted come playoff time. But if you go back and look at the last 5 or 6 games for the Chargers, as you mentioned, what happened to the defense last week? Allowed 40 points, and they gave up more than 500 yards to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's got a good offense. They were down 13-0 at Kansas City. Coulda, woulda, shoulda won that game, but they lost 19-17. They went to Atlanta 3 weeks ago. They won that game 17-13. They had zero business winning that game whatsoever. They lost to Baltimore. I thought that final score was misleading. And they beat Cincy 34-27 at home. Bengals could have won that game. And you flip it and you go with Denver. Well, I think we can all agree that if it wasn't for Jonathan Taylor and that double pass by the Colts last week, they're not winning that game.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
31-13,
Bad.
misleading. The 41-32 win over Cleveland, that was a very losable game for them. They won by 10 out here against the Raiders. Probably should not have covered that game, but they did. They beat Atlanta by 32. That's the most impressive game they played. Of course, lost to KC. Field goal was blocked, and they got blasted by Baltimore by 31 the week before that. So are both these teams just completely fugazi? And it's more of a playoff thing if they both reach time to fade them at that point?
Chargers are good if they're healthy.
Okay, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, but that's, you're not going to get Dobbins back till the playoffs, and you got all these guys banged up right now too. So, and then you have to love both coaches as well to come in. And the win total was 5.5 for Denver. They're going to make the playoffs barring a collapse, and everyone expected the Chargers to do this and go over the win total as well. 8.5, at least get to 9 with Harbaugh. So to me, it's all about the props. Herbert-related stuff. You got to love the kickers here. 2 great kickers with big legs. You can find 48.5, longest made field goal. You want to get aggressive. And Dicker's $2 over 1.5. That'll tell you what type of game it's going to be tonight. So, good points about Denver, though. But can you trust Bo not to turn it over? And do you want to go conservative if you're Peyton and don't want him to make a mistake?
I have a pizza money bet, and by the way, we're going to take you. We're going to open up Mitch and Pauly's Pizzeria coming up in about 90 minutes here on the program. If you don't know what that is, it's a really fun segment where we ask for your feedback on kind of long shot bets. You put some pizza money on it, and we'll go over it and kind of grade them at that point. I do have a pizza money bet on this game tonight, and it involves which player is going to lead the game in rushing. And when you look again, Chargers can't run the ball. There's no Dobbins. Herbert is unwilling to take off because of the injury. Mm-hmm. And there's no McLaughlin tonight for the Broncos. Is this an Estime game? Is it a Javonte Williams game? His rushing attempts prop tonight is 10.5. In his last 5 games, in order, he has had 6, 4, 8, 9, and 1 carry. On his last 18 carries, he has accounted for 14 yards. Javonte Williams has been a dead man walking, and there's been a promo playing for a couple of weeks from John Hansen, the guru here, who does a show every day at 2 o'clock Eastern on VSiN, and he's spot on. He says, reminder people, Sean Payton is poison for fantasy folks, and he is. So trying to figure out who that running back is going to be. Is it finally going to be a Williams game? I can't see it. Maybe it's more Estime, but I don't think either one of these teams will be able to run the football tonight. And to that note, the Broncos overall on the season, they are 4th overall in DVOA and number 2 in the entire league against the run. The Chargers are 16th overall against the run, but the Broncos are 29th running the football.
Yeah, I'm shook from Sunday. They were terrible in that game.
Oh, yes, they were.
Knicks was terrible, and they were going to lose that game until Taylor did the unthinkable, and then the stupid double pass as well. So I'll tell you, 7.5 under first quarter looks great. Great. Come out, don't make a mistake, a little conservative football, and play the field position battle.
Is there, do you want to do no score first 5?
I saw $2, though. That's too much.
You want to stretch it to 6 minutes?
Do that. Yeah, that's probably better. But then again, you could hit Sutton for a big play, and these kickers are so good. That goes up in smoke, too. Sutton longest reception, 23.5. I don't mind that either. Knicks over rushing yards, I like, too. Oh, yeah. 21.5. Knicks over, Herbert under. Really like that. And again, Herbert's only thrown, he got me last week, but he's only thrown 2 interceptions the whole year.
That's right.
Now I'm seeing at Caesars like $1.45 now, $1.50, no INT.
Yeah.
So school's out on that.
I got a good question today, and I've looked for this this year in the NFL, but I can't find it anywhere. You know, we always talk about ladder bets, like who's going to go off 60, 70, 80 plus yards. The question was, can you find any book to go the other way? And this person was looking for Javonte Williams like under 20 yards rushing in the game tonight. Alternate player props to the under, though. And I think that's a good idea for a game like this tonight. I think I'd be looking at several players.
Yeah. Remember the first meeting, though? They toyed with them.
Yeah.
The Chargers were killing them. Then they got conservative, took it easy on them, and there were some late garbage touchdowns late. But I guess you'd throw that out now because it's kind of a different Charger team.
At full strength, I think the Chargers are dangerous in the playoffs.
Yes.
This current version, I can't consider them as a threat. Broncos, because of the defense, is that a good enough unit to keep them in games? I mean, we're talking, they got killed by Baltimore, though, by 31.
Yeah, everyone has a bad game, though.
Yeah.
That's right. But that's the one game that you say, oh, boy. But then they outplayed Kansas City and should have beat them on the road.
Yeah, true.
And yes, with the good defense, if you don't make mistakes, have some good wide receivers and playmakers, they can win a game or two. Yes. But I'll tell you, it's squeaky. Even though the odds say 85%, then it becomes squeaky bum time, though. They lose this game, then you go to Cincinnati. You're an underdog. Then you have to close with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Who knows what happens there? All of a sudden, that's going to drop big time. And you want to wrap it up tonight, if both teams, but certainly the Chargers. You're gonna beat the Raiders and the Patriots, but you don't want to mess around here.
Imagine if they were to lose the final 3 games of the season.
Oh, what a choke job!
Huge fan base.
I don't want to see Burrow and Chase. That's another thing. You'd welcome them into the playoffs.
No kidding. Up next, Paul's going to recap last night's betting action with Win Some, Lose Some here on VSiN.
Night? Wow, winning. Or was it a rough one?
Well, they can't all be winners, can they?
Loser! You're a loser!
Pauly Howard recaps the night in sports betting in Win Some, Lose Some.
More madness with the Bulls. UNLV wins a bowl game for the first time since 2000. +1 to +4.5. Back down to 1. And UNLV goes off a 3.5 point favorite. And the under from 51 down to 45.5. Harris, the third stringer, looked good for Cal, but then he got hurt. I don't think that kid had ever been in a game before that came in. And the pass on 4th down, Manute Bol couldn't have caught it. That kid was terrible. And the UNLV fake punt was awesome as they win and were handed points with the special teams and also taking advantage of a Cal turnover deep in their own territory as well.
I'll tell you, Dan Mullen, the new UNLV coach, was in the booth during the game. And got it. Like, if you're a fan of this team and you're afraid that Barry Odom's going to leave and it's going to, crumble to the ground, I would have been super excited by hearing Dan Mullen talk last night during the booth. A lot of coaches are good at that kind of thing, but to think that this program turned it around like this and they're going to go from Barry Odom to Dan Mullen back-to-back as coaches, again, something I never would have, that could have been 1,000 to 1, I never would have bet it.
Yeah. Future's bright. They got a chance. James Madison from 3 to 10, back down to 7, fell 7, and the under in the Uncle Junior Bowl. College hoops, Youngstown State +240, Wofford +230, East Texas A&M 3-1. Subscribe, be part of the team, vsin.com, our radio and podcast friends. You always want to see these tweets and videos at Pauly Does Vegas on Instagram. Send them in, we'll put you on. The other day here at Circa, overhang bar up top, $50 a push, 4 to the Royal, dealt. He looks at the camera, let's get it, bam, there it is. $40,000. Merry Christmas. Got the sweater on, and he has got to be jacked and pumped. That never works when I'm in that situation. Look at that. 4 to the Royal dealt. Let's go for it, and he gets it for $40,000.
Jesus.
What a Christmas present. Incredible. Good for you. This is called Little Hidden Treasure, where the dog puts the little snack in the bone under the rug. by the kitchen table, and he's trying to pat it down and set it down, and I'll just save that for later. No one will find it, huh? Right? And they're videotape him the whole time. Oh, you see me? Okay. Look, putting his bone under the rug. Trying to. It's not dirt. You can't cover it up, buddy. The rug's good enough.
No, he's like, trust me, nobody's going to see this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The bulge gives it away too, buddy. Huh? Right? This one's tough. It's a highlight reel, or in this case, low light reel, called Drama Time. It's every time the pet, dog or cat, would freak out and see another animal on the TV and go up, and number one, breaks the TV. Other guy runs away. There's the other dog, comes up, tries to paw and grab at the dog on the TV, loses it. There's another one where the dogs look. Is that the Darth Vader one? See, the other dog, he freaks out. Here it is. Yeah, here it is. Yep. Darth Vader walks in the room, and the dog is spooked, and he hides behind the couch. I don't want any part of Vader. Look at his face. Yes, this is great. And how many TVs were wrecked, too. There's the other one where he's afraid and he's got his toy in his mouth.
Dave
Tooley retweeted this one. That's where the dog's watching himself on TV.
Okay,
and
look at
this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I have to say that of the dogs that were breaking the TVs on accident early on in this video, how weak are those TVs? They barely touched them.
Yeah, that's true.
Look at this guy.
Wow. Maybe it was more about the nail and on the paw as well. I could watch this all day on loop. Andre will put that up later at Pauly Does Vegas. At Pauly Does Vegas on Instagram. Oh, he gets up there big time on the mantle as well. Goes on and on and on. Ready to elevate your tailgate game? You have to try Sewell's. Born from a backyard cookout and a mason jar of unforgettable flavor, Sewell's has become a Southern favorite, lighting up taste buds from Georgia to the Carolinas. Ribs and wings, backyard burgers that takes every bite to the next level. Southern hospitality never tasted so good. Order online, SewellsBarbecueSauce.com, SewellsBarbecueSauce.com.
Another note that you brought up yesterday regarding this game tonight, Tom Pelissaro does his annual survey of GMs, front office people across the NFL about awards, and not a single person that he talked to across the league said Sean Payton would get my vote for Coach of the Year. He's one of the favorites on the list.
Yeah, all the Broncos shut out. And Nix wasn't behind Daniels. It was Bowers. That's another one.
By the way, on that note, I went back and looked again at every tight end against the Broncos this year. It was Brock Bowers the first time they played who had the best game against Denver. But other than that, Kelsey had a good game against them. They have done a really good job at shutting down or completely eliminating that position this year. They are the second best team, I believe, against tight ends. When you look at DVOA, no, check that. They're number one. They're number one overall. This is interesting because they're number one overall against guarding tight ends. The Chargers are number one against running backs out of the backfield. And to go down a little bit deeper here, the Chargers are number 3 against wide receiver number ones. That would be Cortland Sutton. But they're 31st against wide receiver number 2s. The Broncos actually are 24th against wide receiver number 1. That would be Ladd McConkey. But if you think that Surtain's going to be on him all game, they allow 75.5 yards per game to that position, and they are the 5th best team against wide receiver number 2s on the year. It's a really, really important game tonight. Fascinating handicap. And I do lean Chargers, though, minus the 2.5.
Wow. I love at DraftKings and Westgate both teams to make a 33-yard field goal. I can't believe it's $1.10. Love that. And I wanted to get aggressive with the alt field goals, but they know what kind of game it's going to be. Dicker to make 4 pluses, plus 575. How about the bowl game? We got the pregame. The bowl game goes at 4. How about this nugget? Teams without their head coach against the team with their head coach. Now 1-10 straight up. 3-8 ATS the last 2 years. That's from Chris Massero. The winner was last night with the Rebels. It was
UNLV was the first one.
It was 0-10. And your boy Clay Helton tonight going against the interim with Sam Houston State, and it's nothing but Sam Houston State money the last 2 days. As now these guys who are in the portal are still going to give it a go here. An incredible turnaround, making the jump up to FBS and 3-9 to 9-3. So that was 6.5, and now it's there's a 3.5 offshore at one spot on this game tonight.
What do you make of the schedule? The one game tonight, it starts an hour and 20 minutes before the Thursday night game, but then tomorrow we get 3 games overall, and that goes into the Indiana-Notre Dame game starts off bright and early. Actually, Ohio and Jacksonville State.
Yep.
That game's the early game. Then Tulane, Florida. Then Indiana, Notre Dame. I kind of like that.
The first game's good. Yep. But both teams had excellent seasons. Florida closed 8-1 ATS. You want to play the SOS game, big disparity. Florida number 3, Tulane number 80. Tulane doesn't have their quarterback. Crowd edge. The game's in Tampa. So, again, I'm all about Florida in that game. Now it's come down a little bit. And then your big boy. And hopefully it snows. And we'll talk to our good friend, the good doctor, live right before kickoff. So Pat Forty, and Pat Forty's on the show tomorrow, too. He's going to Columbus. So he does his podcast, The College Football Inquirer, with Dan Wetzel. And they were kicking this around about when's the last time Notre Dame won a huge game. They think 1993, Florida State.
What was Florida State? Was that against Charlie Ward?
I believe it was.
And that was what?
And they lost to Glenn Foley.
To have it, yeah. Was that to have a how late in the season was that game?
I think it was deep.
They haven't. So they're thinking about like BCS era,
BCS bowl games, the Alabama national title playoff, all that stuff, right? They played. Didn't they play 1 year? Ohio State got them. And then they played, I think it was Freeman was the coach right away. They played a big bowl game against Oklahoma State and blew a 27-point lead or 21-point lead. So they think it's 1993, the last time Notre Dame won a huge game.
Well, I would say
all the pressure on Notre Dame and all the pressure on Penn State.
I would say that the game that they beat Oklahoma in that year to kind of make sure that they were going to get to the national title game before they lost to Alabama, pretty damn big game. If I recall correctly, that was in Norman. And Oklahoma was good as always, and Notre Dame had to have it. I think that was, pretty big game for them, and they went there and I think they clubbed them in that spot. I would argue that one, but okay. Want to go back 30-plus years? Good question for Brad Powers coming up a little bit later on, lifelong Notre Dame fan.
Yeah.
Well, does this one qualify, in their opinion? It's a playoff game.
This is your big boy.
I would think that this would be a big one, even though they're a 7.5-point favorite, right?
Yeah. Got to win this one. And then Day, I think his job's on the line in the late game. Tennessee has lost 21 in a row on the road against top 10 teams. The SEC goes to Columbus for the first time since 1988.
Yeah.
Look at that total now. It come back up a little bit, but that could be wild Saturday night.
No, I like the rest of the world. I have plus 7.5 in pocket on Tennessee. Yep. I said this yesterday on the show. I'm going to have to try to hopefully get off this game in play. Hopefully Tennessee scores early and come back in Ohio State.
The props are nuts in these places. Good job. Caesars, Will Hill, DraftKings. Will a quarterback throw for 400 yards? 10-1. The whole playoffs. You mentioned the overtime thing.
It was only one that I saw.
Yeah. Well, you can bet under 1.5. They also have conference wins up. Road wins, round one, has gone from 1.5 under 175 to under $3 now.
Under $3, okay.
Yep. 150-yard receiver, 200-yard rusher, all that's up there. The entire playoffs and first round.
Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian on the program coming up next. What does he expect from Michael Penix in his first start? And will A.J. Brown eat again this weekend?
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Welcome back. We go hardcore football here, 2 straight segments, NFL style, as Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian joins the program, guillotineleagues.com, and his podcast is called Fantasy Football Weekly, and he is on the Progressive Guest Line. Good afternoon, Charch. Happy holidays. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you guys. Speaking of which, not to have an on-air production meeting, but are we doing this next Thursday? You guys in? Are we chatting?
We're here.
Damn right. There's a game. Come on.
Right. Okay, good. I like that attitude. All right. Fantastic. Let's do it.
What do you want? Let's start here. Let's go fantasy first. We'll go player props for tonight and this weekend coming up in the next segment. And I think the biggest question right now on the board is, Michael Penix overall. Is he worth starting this weekend in deep leagues? Well, I should say if you're in the playoffs and you need it in a pinch to start this guy. And also, I did notice that at 250 yards for him passing this weekend was a pretty decent plus number. What are you thinking is going to happen here with Penix against this horrible Giants defense?
Yeah, okay. Well, a few things. First of all, I decided, just because for my own edification, I wanted to know how first start rookies have done lately, like the last 5 years. And so I brought it down to first round quarterbacks in their first start over the last 5 years. You tracking me with all that?
Sure.
First round quarterbacks, first start, last 5 years. 11 instances of that. Shockingly good passing results. And I don't have the exact number of passing yards on average, but it basically divided like this. There were 4 of the 11 that were disasters, 7 that were really pretty good games, and fantasy startable games. And to put it into fantasy points, which I know is not really actionable from a betting standpoint, but the 7 that performed well out of the 11, they averaged 20 fantasy points, which is a lot. And I was shocked that it was as good as it was. But get this, and might be more actionable from a betting standpoint. Of those 11 first round quarterbacks in the last 5 years, 10 of them lost the game.
Yeah. Wow.
10 out of 11 lost the game. So even though some put up some good numbers, it wasn't ultimately games that they could win. And so, you could go money line against the Falcons and you'd have a lot of history on your side on these on first start NFL quarterbacks.
I'm also wondering, though, like how many of those quarterbacks that you went back and looked at were actually starting in week 1 and they had the entire offseason and summer and training camp to get ready for that game.
Yeah. And you know what? I didn't divide it up that way. Now, what I do like about Penix, and I'm ultimately glad that he's starting here. Cousins absolutely deserved to be benched. The way he had played in the last month was awful. And the arm is just dead.
Yeah.
And I did, there were some people who felt like the Achilles was going to affect his arm strength. And I kind of blew it off a little bit because I felt like he was never a guy. I felt like the arm strength wasn't that bad to begin with. And he was never a guy who needed mobility, but the Achilles is just completely destroyed Cousins' entire career track. At the University of Washington, Penix, he was an accurate downfield passer. And I think the Falcons need it, man. They need some juice. They got an ugly win last week against the Raiders. They're still in the playoff hunt. They need to open up this offense, and I think they're going to do it. And we're going to see some downfield passing with Penix in this game.
That would be something if he can save the season, and it's a big reason why is because of what hat they wore in the offseason. How about what do you want to do with Mahomes here? Reed says he looks good to go.
Okay. Yes and no. I'm worried about this game a couple of ways. First of all, bad ankle. And if you think about so much what makes Mahomes magical is the mobility, his ability to get out of a pocket, extend plays. What if the mobility just isn't there for him to slide to his right and, throw on the run? What if that gets disrupted? But then there's the bigger issue. That left tackle spot is a disaster. They had DJ Humphries in. They've had Joe Tooney in. The last 2 weeks. Just those 2 guys alone in the last 2 weeks have given up 15 quarterback pressures. Oof. And here comes Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. So you've got a collapsing pocket on Mahomes' blind side. He doesn't have the mobility to get away. I think we're going to see a lot of short, rushed passes from Patrick Mahomes that is not going to calculate into fantasy success and a lot of on-field success. So I'm nervous about Patrick Mahomes. He drops way out of my starting grading. It's the lowest grade I've given him all year. Quarterback 20 for me this week. And I think you need to find help elsewhere here.
Wow. Well, maybe that help could be Michael Penix, like we talked about.
Could be.
So, by the way, Charch, if this number gets to KC -4, I'm absolutely betting Houston.
Yes.
Because of what you just said.
I think Houston's going to win.
Or you think they're going to win anyway?
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is devastating to me, not from a fantasy perspective, but from a player prop perspective, because Jerry Jeudy has been absolutely on fire. Yeah. And the reason why is because of Jameis Winston. And now the Browns, because Winston is a turnover machine, as we all know, they said, well, that's enough. So they're going to go to DTR. But now there's no way I'm betting Jerry Jeudy this week. What do you want to do from a fantasy perspective?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You can't. I mean, here's the funny thing about DTR. If you go back to the first meeting between these two same teams, right, Cleveland and the Bengals, that was the game in which Deshaun Watson got knocked out of the game. He tore his Achilles. DTR came in. He threw 2 interceptions and he got yanked for Jameis Winston, and it was Jameis Winston since then. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is objectively awful.
Yes.
He's thrown 146 NFL passes. That is not a tiny sample size. I mean, that's enough you can glean something. He has 1 passing touchdown and 7 interceptions. Over the past 2 years, of the 62 quarterbacks that have thrown at least 100 passes, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, dead last, 62 out of 62 in passer rating. I don't think he finishes the game. Ooh. I think they'll flip this just like last time. I could see a real scenario where DTR is so bad that they flip back to Winston mid-game. The only saving grace here is that the Bengals are a certifiably awful defense. Mason Rudolph and Cooper Rush just passed for multiple touchdowns against them. So there is that, but still, I can't advocate putting your money or your fantasy team into the hands of Dorian Thompson.
That was awesome.
As a Hall of Famer, what's your best advice now that we're in the semifinals about maybe a sleeper or do's and don'ts and stuff you got to be careful about now that it's so important now?
Same thing as last week, which is don't just start the same guys that got you here. Your fantasy team, fantasy owners think that they made the playoffs, and so that their roster has been like somehow sanctified because they're in the playoffs. But there's all kinds of evolving situations in the NFL all the time. It's a forever changing drama, including now where guys are emerging like Jalen McMillan. Absolutely start. This is the Tampa Bay wide receiver. Absolutely startable, coming on strong the last 2 weeks. He might be better than the guy you're flexing right now. So just always be looking for ways to improve your roster, even now in the playoffs. Don't be complacent.
Totally agree. And I was shocked last week when I tweeted out, it's for me anyway, it's a tradition unlike any other. I overthink my playoff rosters so much that it drives me crazy. And everybody's like, stick to the guys who got you here. I'm like, that's not how I think. You can't do that. You got to go based on matchups and everything else. As expected, A.J. Brown ate last week for the Eagles after complaining. It was a big deal, obviously. He went nuts. Are you expecting similar results against this Commanders defense on Sunday?
I'm not. Nope. And fantasy players, and he did. Squeaky wheel got the grease last week. That happens with superstars all the time. But the Eagles are who they are, which is the lowest running team in the league. They have the lowest run play percentage. The highest running play percentage, the lowest passing play percentage, just 44%. And A.J. Brown has been totally scattershot all season because of that. And here's the other weird thing about A.J. Brown. He's got this big frame. He's one of the biggest, most physical receivers in the league. They never go to him at the goal line. Even, they got the tush push, which I totally get. But inside the 5-yard line, A.J. Brown needs to take about 3 strides forward, box out his defender, and now you got this gigantic target you could throw to. A.J. Brown has been targeted inside the 5-yard line 0 times this year. Ooh. Those are easy touchdowns that he does not get. Now, specific to this week's matchup, which I find fascinating, Marshawn Lattimore comes back for the Commanders last week. He is a good cornerback, and he's one of the most physical cornerbacks in the league. 0 targets in his coverage last week. The Saints never went his way. Now, Lattimore, I believe, is going to get a lot of the A.J. Brown assignments in this game because he's so physical, because he loves to tangle with other big-bodied receivers. And that could limit A.J. Brown as well because Lattimore's really good. And if we go to the previous game for A.J. Brown, he put up 5 catches, 65 yards in the previous matchup with Washington. And I feel like that's the same ballpark we're in here.
All right. Very good. College football playoffs start tomorrow. No better way to get game ready than with the VSiN College Football Playoff Betting Guide, packed with everything you need to make smarter bets, previews of every first-round matchup, the full preview, props, picks, the brackets, and every bowl game pick from Brent Musburger and Steve Mackinnon. Get the new holiday special, and the guide comes with it. Everything we do through May 1st, $79. VSiN.com/subscribe. Lock it in today. VSiN.com/subscribe.
Up next, Charch is going to tell you who he likes tonight, including a first touchdown bet. And is this going to be like everything under with the running backs as we continue here on VSiN?
This is Follow the Money on VSiN. We
continue here with Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian, GuillotineLeagues.com is the website. His podcast is called Fantasy Football Weekly. He's on the Progressive Guest Line, and I fail to mention all the time that he is the president of the Christmas Vacation Fan Club. Loves that movie.
Yes.
So bad.
And it'll be on a loop over the next 2 weeks.
Vacation is so good. The original is so good. It's so inspired. It's so funny. And Christmas Vacation, it's almost somber. It's so unfunny. It's appropriate for like a funeral.
Wow.
Yeah. I think the only people who love Christmas Vacation are the people who saw it 30 years ago. And comedy doesn't age well. And it was funny then, and you remember it as funny. If you take somebody today who has never seen it and show them Christmas Vacation, they will be grim-faced for 2 hours.
I love it. Probably based on what you just said. My wife hates it, but I'd also say the same thing about Star Wars. Go back and show that to somebody who's never watched it before. No. Star Wars is awful.
Oh, boy.
I watched it for the first time during...
Bad.
I watched it for the first time during the pandemic. I was laughing out loud. Like, this is what people told me my whole life is the best movie of all time. Such a bad take.
Yeah, billions were wrong. Billions.
Okay, yeah, but in fairness, when Star Wars came out, and I was a kid, I was like 8. It was groundbreaking graphically and visually groundbreaking. It had told a science fiction story visually that we had never had before. And that part of it was amazing. I did not realize as a kid just how bad almost all of the acting was in that film at the time.
That's all I'm saying. It's not timeless. It's not like people think. Anyway, so let's go on. I don't want Pauly to ruin piss on my parade here, actually. So tonight's game. Here, Charch. So there's no McLaughlin for the Broncos. Javonte Williams, last 5 games, carries 6, 4, 8, 9, and 1. He has 14 yards on his last 18 carries. Right? I mean, it's been a complete disaster. Does he get any run tonight? Is it Estime? And then also, I know you have a strong opinion on the Chargers running backs as well.
Yeah, my assumption is it's going to be mostly Williams. I have no faith in them getting anything done. They haven't been able to run the ball all year, and I don't think they're going to run the ball here either. And that's part of why, if you don't mind my transition to Courtland Sutton and first touchdown of this game, because this is a one-dimensional offense, and a crux to why I like Courtland Sutton, by the way, over 62.5 yards and first touchdown, and that first touchdown, by the way, plus 950 if you're interested, is this. Who else is going to score a touchdown for the Broncos? I mean, Sean Payton has stopped running Bo Nix, so we can't angle at Bo Nix. The backfield, total disaster for everybody. No team uses their tight end less than Denver does. And at the wide receiver position, there's Courtland Sutton, who's on the field like every snap. And then there's just a rotation of 4 guys, Mims and Vele and Humphrey and Franklin. So there's almost nobody else. If you think the first score is going to come from Denver, how does it not be? It feels like it's got to be Sutton. So I like that angle. And then the over 62.5 yards. So here's the deal in the Chargers cornerbacks. They play physical. They're bigger physical guys. And they're used to succeeding by pushing around smaller wideouts like Darnell Mooney and Xavier Worthy as recent examples of smaller guys who did nothing against the Chargers. But then look at what Mike Evans did to the Chargers last week, because nobody bullies Mike Evans, and Courtland Sutton is almost as big as Mike Evans is. He's not going to get pushed off his routes like the other guys do. So I like Sutton here. He's scored against the Chargers in the previous matchup. He has scored against the Chargers in 3 straight games. So I like Sutton here, the over 62.5 yards, and I like the first touchdown at plus 950.
All right. Very good. Let's go to the Baltimore Ravens playing Saturday against the Pittsburgh Steelers in a rematch in a game that Baltimore lost the first time around.
Yes.
So you had a theory that the Ravens might dial it back with Henry as the season progressed, right, to save him maybe for the playoffs. What do you want to do with Lamar, who his mom called out and he was running wild again last week? Kind of, sort of, anyway. And Derrick Henry in this game.
All right. So now last time these teams played, the Ravens ignored Derrick Henry. He had just 13 carries, and they lost, and they only scored 16 points. They're going to flip this thing. Your crack production team has done a great job with this graphic that I want to show you about Derrick Henry right here. Look at what happens to Henry on games off rest. Now, he only had 14 carries last week because they got way, way ahead in their game, and they rested Henry. So week 5, Henry had 15 carries. The next week, 24. Week 8, he had 11 carries. The next week, 23. Week 11, he had 13 carries. The next week, he had 24 carries. This is going to be a Derrick Henry-led game. And this is this is the path to victory right here on the ground with a bunch of Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry's carry number is 18.5 carries. I like him over the 18.5 carries. And conversely, Lamar Jackson under 18.5 completions. They happen to have the same number, 18.5. Okay. So if I'm going to go Henry all in on these carries, let's go with the under on Lamar Jackson as well. Let's talk about that for a second. Opposing quarterbacks against Pittsburgh, and 18.5 is a small line. It's a small number. We're going to accept that. Opposing quarterbacks against Pittsburgh under 18.5 completions 6 different times this year, including Lamar Jackson in the earlier matchup, where he only had 16 completions in that game. He only completed 45% of his passes, and Jackson always struggles with Pittsburgh. Across his career, 5 starts, he's averaging 19 completions, 213 passing yards, and just 1 passing touchdown. He's never scored a rushing touchdown against them either. I'll mention that. And the Steelers have got a great pass rush, obviously, and TJ Watt now expected to play. They took him off the injury list today. So a lot of things to like here about a Derrick Henry-led game plan that I think is actionable for you.
Very good. Do any of these Chicago players go off against the Lions with 16 guys out on defense?
16 guys. I've been doing this a long time. I don't think I've ever seen. We've seen teams put 16 guys on IR, but not on one side of the ball. I mean, it's staggering right now. So there are great matchups all over the field, individual matchups. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, love both of these guys. They're going to go up against Terrion Arnold and Amik Robertson, respectively, as cornerbacks. They have Pro Football Focus grades of cornerback 114 and cornerback 100. And those are the good cornerbacks. The other cornerback that's getting forced onto the field, my favorite guy, Kindle Vildor. We've been targeting Kindle Vildor for 3 seasons now, going back to his days in Chicago. His Pro Football Focus rank is cornerback 120 out of a possible 125 in coverage. He replaces Carlton Davis for this game. Roma Dunze could be a factor. Dunze lines up most often on Kindle Vildor's side of the field. So game on for those receivers and Caleb Williams, by the way. Williams, when these teams met in week 13, Williams threw for 256 yards and 3 scores. I think we forget that because of how everything unraveled on Thanksgiving Day at the end of the game. But Caleb Williams was cooking in that game. So I think Caleb Williams in this passing game in particular, I'm not as high on the running game, are really potentially sitting on nice games here.
All right, Charch, the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, I think the entire organization, they're making it clear to the entire public that they want to get Trey McBride a touchdown. Yeah. So his odds to score, he's having a great year, but no touchdowns. So do we finally bet him at the reduced price that books are offering on him or no?
It is a terrible price. So don't put any real money on this, but I want in on the action on this. It's only plus 125 for a guy who hasn't caught a touchdown in this week in 15 weeks, right? So it's ridiculous that it's only plus 125. But if you don't know, Trey McBride, Arizona tight end, has somehow caught 89 passes without a receiving touchdown, an all-time futility streak in the history of the NFL.
Wow.
And you mentioned Kyler Murray's Instagram said 85 will touch the end zone soon. I promise. 85 is the number that Trey McBride wears. But here's the best reason to bet it, I guess. The Panthers have allowed the most touchdowns to tight ends, including 10 on the season and 8 tight end touchdowns in the last 8 games. 1 per game is a staggering number for an NFL team. And so you could even have fun with this. What do you think of this? How about the 2 touchdown prop for Trey McBride? Plus 850.
Ooh.
All right, that's better.
Yeah, now I need to bet this because if it cashes, I'm going to be so mad at myself.
FOMO. Yeah. It's like National Tight End Day. You'll hate yourself.
Yep.
Carolina has allowed 2 touchdowns to tight ends in a single game 3 times already this year. And Trey McBride's the best tight end they've faced.
Wow.
Outside of George Kittle. So it's a great opportunity for McBride. I kind of like the 2 touchdown plus 850. And I would throw, $3 on the plus 125 anytime touchdown, just because I think it'll be fun to watch on Sunday.
All right, pal. Great stuff as always. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you a week from today.
Merry Christmas, my friends. We'll talk to you in a week. Bye-bye.
There you go. Be good.
Getting fun now. Juicy. I just did it. So looking forward to that. Going to be awesome.
Yeah. Can you believe the holiday special is only $79?
I just did it.
I know. It's only $79. You get all access here at VSiN until May 1st. Expert picks for every major sport. The VSiN expert leaderboards, exclusive betting splits. Go to vsin.com/subscribe.
Good job, kid.
Best bets in soccer. Steve Wiss.
We got an update.
What's a fair price on Man City to get relegated? We'll ask him next.